We have a massive international economic and infrastructure terrorist attack, and the entire world is acting like it's a movie of Knives Out. Nobody claims to have done it, and everybody's pointing fingers at everybody else. But the evidence points to the fact that the United States is likely involved. And there's a lot of conflicting information, there's a lot of misinformation, and mainstream media here in the United States isn't talking about it. But this is a big event. This would be like if somebody blew up the oil pipeline that went from Canada down through the United States all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. That just blew up, and then everybody looked around and said, well, how did that happen? We don't know what's going on. We would want some answers. And the best way, I think, to understand that this is indeed a massive international economic attack is to just take a look at a map of what's going on. So what we have here is a pipeline map from Russia into Europe. We can break this into kind of three sections. You have Russia running oil and gas into Turkey. The Turk Stream explains a little bit why Turkey has stayed on the sidelines, even though they're a NATO country. Now, the next thing to notice is you have essentially these pipelines, the Soyuz, running through Ukraine and then into Europe. Well, given that Russia and Ukraine are at war, we can basically just put these offline. They're continuing to flow at the moment, but they're going to be no good. Now we have the other one, a Yamal pipeline, running from kind of northern Russia into Belarus, then into Poland, and into Germany. Now, Poland has been Ukraine's best friend through this entire war, and Russia's been pretty angry about that. So they've already throttled that pipeline to basically zero. They cut Poland off a long time ago. The other big one, the one we hear about all the time, is of course Nord Stream. And right here, this blue line you see is Nord Stream. Now there's technically two pipelines. The first one, Nord Stream 1, which was built, it's kind of a joint project by Germany and Russia, but it's actually a Swiss company, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then it turns out Germany wanted so much natural gas that Russia decided to build a second pipeline. So that's Nord Stream 2, and it runs right alongside Nord Stream 1, the blue one right here. The United States sanctioned that pipeline, and so they couldn't get funding, and essentially Russia built the entire Nord Stream 2, an entire Nord Stream 2 that ran all the way down, follows Nord Stream 1. Now, as Germany continued to side with Ukraine, the EU, Russia got increasingly angry. But they make a lot of money exporting oil and gas to Germany, so they decided to throttle Germany. They throttled, and eventually, about a month ago, they took it down to zero, figuring this is a bargaining chip. Germany's going to get cold, and then maybe we can open up the gas again, and we can talk. But on September 26, some leaks were noticed on Nord Stream 1 and 2. Pressures dropped, and some explosions have been noted here and here. Somebody had blown up Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 right in the Baltic Sea. And everybody's left scratching their heads, pointing their fingers. Russia says, well, Europe, United States did it. The United States says, oh, we didn't do it. Russia must have done it. And nobody knows what's going on. So the first thing that we kind of hear about from reports is that, well, there's helicopters. And DW, Deutsche Welle News, is a very respectable news outlet in Germany. And they say, well, the helicopters, there's no evidence they carried out the attack. But if we take a look at the position right here of where the Nord Stream leaks are. There we go. So we can see there was an explosion. What we see here is a flight path of U.S. Seahawk naval helicopters. They were flying around here September 24th, September 25th, September 26th. Kind of a confusing pattern. Now, the United States says that we were just flying like this. Given the flight tracking and the flight radar, they're about 5 to 15 miles away from the actual pipelines. So not super far away, but not super close either. What they were doing there, for real, nobody knows. Now, the plot thickens a little bit because we have Reuters reporting that the CIA warned Berlin about possible attacks on gas pipelines in the summer, according to Der Spiegel, which is another very respectable German newspaper. And essentially, Reuters is piggybacking off in Der Spiegel, which said that some CIA sources had reached out and warned Germany about possible attacks on the gas pipeline in the Baltic Sea. Now, very nebulous as to where or whom these attacks would come from, just that the CIA reportedly reached out to the German government, hey, you should be careful, there might be some attacks coming. Now again, to get back to these helicopters, we're going to use a whole bunch of different news sources. So this one, we used Deutsche Welle News, we used Der Spiegel, we're using Reuters. This is Alma Yadin, which is a pan-Arab media outlet, a kind of Al Jazeera competitor. So again, they shouldn't be too strongly in favor of Russia and the United States either way. And they report that earlier this month, for several days in a row, September 1, 2, and 3, in particular, the helicopters were circling around the Baltic Sea. But from my flight tracking, I couldn't verify that. I couldn't really figure out if U.S. Navy helicopters were anywhere near the pipelines in the early September. But on Flight Radar 24, we can definitely confirm U.S. military MH-60R Seahawks were there, as we saw in the Deutsche Welle, looping around on September 10th, September 19th, September 22nd, and September 25th. And the reports of the pipeline explosions were made known on September 26th. So we have a lot of helicopter sorties on September 22nd, 23rd, 25th, 26th by the U.S. Very circumstantial evidence. Now, what kind of happens immediately after Europe realizes the pipelines have been taken offline, that something has gone wrong? There seems to be an explosion. The first thing we should note is that a Polish minister in parliament tweeted, "Thank you, USA," with a picture of the aerial confirmation of one of the Nord Stream pipelines having been blown up. And then continuing on to say, by the way, there's no shortage of pipeline capacity for taking gas from Russia to Western Europe, including Germany, which is true. Germany is right now building LNG ports to be able to accept liquefied natural gas. And the biggest provider of liquefied natural gas, or LNG, would be the United States. So who would benefit slightly economically from this? The United States, who theoretically would be harmed economically by the pipeline being destroyed. If we're candid, Russia. Because where the pipelines were attacked, if we go back to our map, right around here, these are kind of in the kind of middle of the Baltic Sea, in between Poland, Sweden, Finland, and Germany. Now, Poland's in NATO, Germany's in NATO, and Sweden and Finland are both attempting to join NATO. So it's very hard for Russia to go out there and fix them, or kind of get eyes on the ground as to what's going on. On top of that, it's hard for them to get the parts. First, Nord Stream 1 is actually a Swiss company. With the current sanctions, they're not going to be able to fix Nord Stream 1 anytime soon. And Nord Stream 2 was again built entirely by the Russians, but as you can see, it runs where it was attacked is in the middle of the Baltic Sea. And in order to get the replacements for Nord Stream 2, which was already sanctioned by the United States, they can't get the parts. So at the current moment, Russia's ability to export natural gas to Germany, their biggest customer, and the one they're most hoping to influence in the kind of geopolitical landscape, has been severely crippled. Why would Russia, in the middle of a war with Ukraine, where they've already kind of blocked off these pipelines, blocked off this pipeline, why would they blow up their own pipeline? It takes off one of their most powerful bargaining chips from the table. They've just removed it themselves. I didn't quite finish this tweet. I had to go back on the Internet Archive and grab it because he quickly deleted it, even though he was thanking the U.S. Did he explain why he was thanking the U.S.? No. Perhaps he just assumed the United States did this? It's not an unreasonable assumption, given the circumstantial evidence. But the circumstantial evidence continues. And now I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, me. Do you need help navigating modern media waters? BostWiki, BostWiki, PR. Are you a content creator? Are you a business person? Are you anybody in between that needs help navigating the modern media landscape? Most PR firms, media management, they're antiquated, they're out of date. They're built around a model that no longer exists. Print newspapers and cable television. That era of media is as dead as dinosaurs. You need somebody that can respond hyper quick, hyper fast, and aggressively on behalf of you. And at BostWiki PR, our motto is, don't tell me the story, tell me whom the reporter is. We don't play defense, we play offense. I have worked with very big names that you have heard of, but I cannot disclose their names because I offer them the same confidentiality I offer you. If you need help, from crisis management to breaking into journalism to long-term strategic planning and working with media and reporters, go to my website, BostWiki.com, shoot me an email. It's expensive. It will be the best return on value for your buck. Back to the video. But the circumstantial evidence continues. President Joe Biden, speaking about a year ago, said this about Russia and Nord Stream.
Let me answer the first question first. If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring it in.
How will you do that exactly? Since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will. I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
We see the President of the United States, the executive branch, saying if Russia invades Ukraine, we will bring an end to the Nord Stream pipeline. And even the reporters are a little suspicious. Well, how would you do that? That's an international pipeline. in the Baltic Sea between Germany and Russia owns Nord Stream 2, and the Swiss kind of own Nord Stream 1. And Joe Biden's response is, we will. No explanation, just we'll bring an end to Nord. A little bit ominous that now we are here a year later, and there are some mysterious explosions on Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2, and somehow nobody knows what's going on. Another interesting reaction is that immediately after these reports, September 26th, that Nord Stream 1 and 2 were taken offline, is our United States Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. He said this. Now, again, I'm going to pull up TikTok because I don't got time to trace down every single source, and this is how I found it. Welcome to the modern age. Ignore the captions. Just pay attention to what Anthony Blinken says.
This is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity to, once and for all, remove the dependence on Russian energy, and thus to take away from Vladimir Putin the weaponization of energy as a means of advancing his imperial designs. That's very significant, and that offers tremendous strategic opportunity for the years to come. But meanwhile,
our Secretary of State is correct. Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 being taken offline is a tremendous opportunity for the United States to continue to keep the EU coalition aligned with Ukraine, because it removes the bargaining chip that Putin had been relying on to throttle gas in and out, saying, hey, I can provide you guys cheaper gas if you maybe want to peel out of the sanctions, or maybe want to put pressure on Ukraine to get to the negotiating table. Now that it's gone, Russia's bargaining chip is taken offline. And the fact that Russia would do this while they're in the middle of the war that they're not exactly succeeding at, I find tremendously unlikely. However, is a tremendous opportunity, now that these pipelines are gone, for the United States to insert themselves into the conversation and say, hey, those pipelines, they're gone. I know you need natural gas. Well, turns out we're a big exporter of liquefied natural gas. Those ports you're building, keep building them. We will be shipping you liquefied natural gas as long as you stay in this united coalition against Russia. It's a tremendous opportunity for the United States. Anthony Blinken is totally correct. So given all the circumstantial evidence, whether it's Polish members of parliament thanking the United States, the president of the United States about a year ago saying we would take the Nord Stream pipelines offline, then we have U.S. Navy helicopters circling, not too far away, not too close, around Nord Stream, essentially during the entire month that Nord Stream suddenly went offline, and yet nobody knows who does it. Now, I should say, of course, the United States denies any involvement, and that may be true. The United States may not be technically involved. They may have had a proxy, whether it's the British, whether it's the Swedish, but I find it highly unlikely that Russia did this, and all the circumstantial evidence, whether it's Anthony Blinken, whether it's Joe Biden, whether it's our Polish member of parliament, whether it's tracking the bizarre flight patterns of naval helicopters around Nord Stream on September 22nd, all the evidence points towards the United States being involved in this massive international economic espionage. And I do not see this being talked about or discussed enough in mainstream media. And whether it's a Kremlin Russian talking point or not, I don't care. Ukraine is a sovereign nation that was invaded by Russia for no reason, is an American talking point. But I agree with that too. We need to be having open and frank discussions as to what's going on during these global crises and wars. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you learned something or were able to just kind of sort through what the heck is going on here. And just as I was about to end this video, we have some breaking news from last night. Reuters is reporting that a U.S. Navy jet flew across the Baltic hours after Nord Stream burst. So it turns out a U.S. Navy reconnaissance aircraft flew near the site of the ruptured Nord Stream 2 pipeline in the Baltic Sea after the first damage emerged. So we have the pipeline leaks here, and we have a U.S. flying near the pipelines, going over Poland, circling for a while, and then going very near one of the pipeline leaks before returning back. A U.S. Navy spokesperson says the U.S. Navy Poseidon aircraft was conducting a routine Baltic Sea maritime reconnaissance flight unrelated to the leaks of the Nord Stream pipelines. Could be true. Again, circumstantial evidence continues to come out that implicates the United States in a way that I find the United States hard to explain. This happens to be circling over where the Nord Stream pipelines leaked the day of. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Again, I hope you guys found this insightful. I tried to use a variety of sources, not be dependent on Russian media, not be dependent on American media, but to collate a variety of different news reportings and make sense of what's happening. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye.